Today, our American colleagues have seen for themselves that the road to peace in Ukraine will not be an easy one, and there will be many who will try to make sure that the peace doesn't come for as long as possible. Stop the hostilities in Ukraine in the very near future. We have in Kiev a former comedian is very worried by direct negotiations, direct talks between Russia and the United States. President Trump finally saw the real face of the expired Ukrainian president.
It's an open secret that ordinary Ukrainians who ended up on the front owing to the forcible mobilization are of no concern to the Kiev regime. They only want to trade militias from nationalist battalions as well as foreign mercenaries, which took part in military hostilities against Russia.
We voted against the American draft. Unfortunately, the absence of our amendment stating that we need to eradicate the root causes of the conflict, and also after the European amendments were taken in, the essence of it has become completely distorted. As a result, instead of an appeal for peace, which originally was put in there by the American colleagues, we ended up with yet another anti-Russian piece of paper, which is distorting the truth, which is creating unrealistic expectations, presenting as regards the way the international community can settle the Ukrainian crisis. This way, yet another opportunity was lost to hear from the General Assembly an appeal for fair, equitable, sustainable peace in Ukraine, taking into account the realities on the ground. We were ready to support that, but the EU and their supporters deprived us of this opportunity, thus having devalued and bankrupted the American draft. Under these conditions, we had to vote against a product which was unrealistic and not viable. I think that today our American colleagues have seen for themselves that the road to peace in Ukraine will not be an easy one, and there will be many who will try to make sure that the peace doesn't come for as long as possible. But this shouldn't stop us. We appreciated the initiative of the United States, and we do hope that this will be followed by other new initiatives, which will finally set aside the party of war in Europe. This is important. This is important first and foremost to save Ukraine and the Ukrainians, which are being sacrificed by the expired Ukrainian president in order to save himself and enrich himself. About what would be the right way to vote, choosing between the two texts, the EU-Ukrainian text and the American text. Well, everyone who is going to press the button during the voting process today has the chance. You either play along with Zelensky and his sponsors and support their incantations, which are divorced of realities, or make a choice in favor of practical, realistic steps which can stop the hostilities in Ukraine in the very near future. Don't get deceived and make the right choice here. We have in Kiev a former comedian is very worried by direct negotiations, direct talks between Russia and the United States about the means of settling the Ukrainian crisis and removing the reasons which led to its existence, which would drastically improve the international situation. The European countries are also worried by that. They have spent years helping the Kiev clique and covered its crimes, and they nurtured Russophobia. They try to ignore the fact that the wind has changed and there is a clear demand for peace now. And the impediment to that is the Kiev usurper and his accomplices. They're not at the rudder anymore, but these pathetic peacekeepers are at a loss, but do continue to lecture the rest of the world about how we're supposed to live in this beautiful garden. Colleagues, the hopelessness of Zelensky regime recently have become obvious also to the main sponsor of the Kiev junta, the United States. The Republican administration, led by President Trump, finally saw the real face of the expired Ukrainian president and realized that he is not at all interested in having peace in this country because he's clinging to power with everything that he has, is fearful of democratic elections where he has no chance of winning. He's not interested in anything else, and he's ready to sacrifice the entire people of Ukraine and its natural resource in order to hold on to his power.
Don't miss out. Log on to oneindia.com for more updates.